Did you know that the stars might be the reason your love life is either flowing or stuck? I'm going to show you exactly how the movement of these celestial bodies influences your relationships and how it can impact or influence your search for love. Hey everybody, I am Vaishali Nikade. I'm an engineer turned psychic, and I show you how you can leverage the power of stars for your love life. As a psychic, I have done thousands and thousands of readings. And what I have seen in the predictions that play out for my clients is that when they align their search for love with the stars, things get a lot easier. It's very easy for them to meet the right person. So think about two examples, two ladies, Meena and Tina, and I have another video, I'll link it here. Essentially, they were both given predictions as to where they need to focus on their search for love. And Meena is the one who actually focused in that particular direction. And as soon as she focused her search in that particular direction, she found that it was very easy for her to meet someone that week. Now, if you ignore this and if you kind of do things your own way, then it's just not going to be as easy. It's going to be really difficult for things to get off the ground. So essentially, it's the influence of the stars, which will think of it as having a headwind versus a tailwind, or a tailwind being in your favor versus against your favor. And when it's against your favor, things become a lot rockier. There's a huge amount of turbulence in the plane. So that's essentially how things will be reflected in your love life. So, what is your goal? Your goal is to take action when the stars are working in your favor. So, essentially, think of it as the tailwind is in your favor, which means that it's propelling you with ease and things are moving forward in a natural flow. So essentially, it's very easy for you to get the desired outcome without putting in a ton of work. So in this video, I'm going to break this down into a few sections. The first one is why stars affect romantic relationships. The second one is key influences on love. The third one is the concept of divine timing, and then real life examples of stars or how stars influence your love life. So, the first part is why stars affect romantic relationships. And the easiest way to explain this is I'm going to share an example of something that you may be familiar with, or maybe you have seen or experienced or witnessed, at least on TV, if not in real life, and that is a total solar eclipse. So, a total solar eclipse is, think of it, this particular section as the total solar eclipse, which means that this is when the totality happens, and totality is a moment of perfect darkness, or essentially think of it as for a moment in time, it almost feels as though night has come. Maybe not for the human beings, but for the planets. But human beings experience in a different way that they no longer get the light of the sun. So I'm just going to draw a timeline here, and this is the timeline. This is the total solar eclipse which is happening here, and this is the moment of totality. So if you want to experience this eclipse, then what you have to do is essentially you have to be prepared here to see it. So let's say that this is a particular instance of time, and during this particular instance of time, you're all prepared to see the eclipse, which means that you are essentially putting yourself in a place where you can experience totality. Now, if I look at it geographically, for instance, let's say that this is a map. Okay, this is a map of a country. It doesn't matter which country for now. And let's say that the path of totality is something like this. This is the path of totality, which means that during this path, people in this path will experience a complete eclipse. And the people outside this path, they are going to see a partial eclipse, or maybe they will just see the effects of the eclipse and not experience as much excitement as people in this particular path or zone. So during this time, what you do is if you're not already living in this zone, then you travel in this zone. For instance, if you're living here, then you want to experience it, you travel in this zone, you travel through here, and then you make yourself visible in this zone. And once you make yourself visible in this zone, then it's very easy for you to experience totality. Now, if for some reason you missed out, then you have to wait until the next total eclipse occurs. So, what does this have to do with the stars influencing your love life? So now you can flip the script and say that this everything like this is happening for your love life. This moment is the moment where you are going to meet the person, and this is, let's say that the spot is going to be somewhere around here. Let's say that the spot is going to be somewhere around here where everything is favorable, and if you place yourself here, then it's going to be very easy for you to meet this person. So essentially, if you're working on your visibility, then you can make yourself visible. So let's say that you live here, so you can make yourself visible. And what you can do is you can make yourself visible outside your area, and then you can just keep expanding your zone so that you're covering more and more of the region. And this can be done in different ways. It could be online, which would be probably the easiest way, or it could be offline. Offline is a little bit more trickier. So if you're online, essentially, you can make yourself visible all across the country. And if you're constantly working on it, then essentially when this moment happens or during this time is when you can actually meet the perfect person. So that's when the opportunity exists. Now, do you know that the opportunity is going to exist in this region and it's going to happen at this particular time, for instance? Most of the times you don't, unless you're working with someone who has given you the timing during which things are going to be favorable. You're probably not going to know. You're going to have to trust your intuition to kind of take account of the scenario and know that, okay, this is the scenario and this is happening, which means that, oh my God, I think that something is happening here. Maybe I'm going to. So initially, before you meet the person, there's just a feeling that something is going to happen. At the moment you meet the person, things may or may not click. Sometimes there could be instant chemistry, and sometimes you may realize later that, oh, this really was the person. It depends on how it plays out and how influential the stars are. If the stars are like extremely favorable, then it would happen almost instantaneously. If they're not that favorable, then maybe it takes time for you to realize that really things happen, but you didn't really kind of get what happened until a while later. So now what happens is in real life, there is energy from the planets, and energy from the planets is what creates this region or this timing where things totally line up for you. And if you are actually putting in the work in terms of visibility, then what will happen is you will get a really, really good opportunity. So now let's move on to the second section, which is the key influences on love. So in terms of the key influences of love, we are looking at how stars influence your love life. Okay. So essentially what you have to do is, let's say that you are over here and the stars, they are somewhere up here in the sky. And essentially what you want is for the stars to kind of all line up so that when you're here, things line up for you perfectly, and whatever opportunity you were looking for kind of falls in your lap. Now, if you know when the stars are going to be favorable, so there is also a timeline, and let's just create a timeline here. And just for the sake of argument, I'm going to create a timeline of 0 to 30 days. So when this timeline exists, or let's say this is just a period. So when there's a timeline, and let's say that this much is the instance during which the stars are favorable. So let's say that's about, it's a little less than halfway. So let's say day 10 to day 15. This is the chunk of time when the stars are going to kind of be working in your favor. So this is when the opportunity is going to come to you. well, depending on how powerful the alignment of the stars is, the opportunity may come to you, or if you make yourself visible a little bit, then it will kind of meet you halfway. So the cause is the stars, which is the energy from the stars, and the effect is the outcome, which means that you are meeting a person. So essentially, you need something in between. You need someone over here who's going to decode how the stars are going to create an outcome, or yeah, how they will create an outcome as well as when they will create an outcome. So for the when section, it's right here that during this time period is when they are going to create the outcome that you're looking for. And how will they create the outcome? That is like the circumstances, like maybe you meet in a park, or maybe you meet in a hotel, or maybe you meet at a conference, or any other place that you can think of, that you kind of just come across the person. So this particular thing is decoding the impact of the stars and how it's going to show up in real life. And this decoding, it can be done in different ways. For instance, one of the ways it can be done is astrology, which probably you're familiar with astrology. There's different types of astrologies, but we're not going to get into that here. But let's say astrology is one way where you can find out based on the nature of the planets. So every planet is a star. So based on the nature of the stars, how things are going to show up and when they are going to show up, which is this particular timing. Another thing, another way you could have this is through psychics. Essentially, psychics can read the energy. So essentially, this is just energy. Stars are emitting energy. So this is psychics. So the stars are emitting energy, and if you can see the energy or see through to be able to look at the energy, which means essentially you're using a sixth sense or the third eye, that could be like one way where you're using your psychic senses in order to look at the energy from the stars and then decode it and then find out the when and where. And then the third way could be like the card reader. So essentially, card reading is kind of same as energy reading, except that the tools that they're using are different. In the case of card readings, they're using cards as a tool, and in case of the psychics, they are kind of using their sixth sense. So whatever job is being done by the sixth sense in case of psychics is done by the card. But there is one more caveat to it, and that says you have to be able to interpret the message. So essentially, you have to be able to tune into the language and be able to interpret correctly. Think of it like if you go to France and everyone is only speaking French and you're speaking English, you need a translator who's going to know both the languages. So essentially, you need to be able to interpret the information or the message from the stars very accurately. Once you can do that, then you can nail in on the when, and you can also nail in on the how. And then once you know the when and the how, then all you have to do is essentially just keep working during all these phases, knowing that it's ultimately going to lead you to the outcome during this time. It doesn't mean you sit idle, because if the stars, like I mentioned earlier, if the depending on how well aligned the stars are, the outcome is going to be different. Sometimes it's going to fall into your lap, and sometimes you may have to kind of go and work for it, and it will still come to you. Which brings us to the concept of divine timing. Divine timing is, it's not just spiritual, it's also scientific. Essentially, it's kind of showing you when things are going to be most favorable for, let's say, relationships, or in order to meet someone. Now, in case of astrology, it could be using the movement of the planets, that, okay, when certain planets are aligned in certain ways, that's when the movement is going to be favorable. In case of psychics, over here, they will be able to see certain patterns in the energy, and from that, they can say that, okay, this is favorable, so this is going to be the timing. In case of card readers, they could see that, okay, based on this particular combination of cards or how they are placed or whatever it is that they're showing, things are very likely to play out during this time period. So, and then you could have a combination of these. You could have someone who is a psychic and who's combining card readings as well. So essentially, they're kind of blending the two techniques. in order to get the results, or maybe to get more accurate results. One can be just looking at the result, and second is more for confirmation kind of a thing. Or you could combine astrology with psychic, or astrology with card readings, or there are different modalities through which you can do this, but these are like some of the obvious ones that I mentioned over here. So that's essentially what I do, which is I kind of show you, when I work with my clients, I kind of show them that, okay, this is going to be the timing, and that's the timing during which things will happen. And then also the how. For instance, let's say you meet at a book club. So then, if they're already a member of the book club, then they will know that maybe there's a new person who comes in there, or something else happens and they meet in those circumstances. So if you'd like to work with me and take advantage of the influence of the stars for your love life, then I'm going to put in a Google form, and you can actually complete that Google form, and then I'll be happy to give you a call and see if we can work together. So now let's come to the real life examples of the influence of the stars in your love life. So let's say that we are zooming in on the period of, let's say we'll just go with 30 days. So let's say this is 30 days. So this is 0 and this is 30. And I'm going to break this even further. So this is 10 and this is 20. I wanted it to be 7 days, but okay, we'll just roll with this. So this is 10 and this is 20. In fact, let's just make it 7 days. I think it would be easier. So if we make it 7 days, then it's essentially seven. So I may have to shift 30. Okay, so this is 7. This is 7 to the 14, 7 3 is the 21, and 7 4 is the 28. So this would be like 28 days over here. And then 30 days is a little past that. So let's say I'm going to just pick up a fake name. So the name is fake, the story is real. So let's say we'll just call her Tina. So Tina was working with me, and during the first 7 days for this particular month, what I told her is that the stars were not favorable to meet someone. So all she had to do was prepare. So she was working on her visibility. She was strategizing as to where she wanted to make herself visible, where she would like to kind of the circumstances during which things would kind of happen for her. It doesn't mean that that's exactly how it's going to happen, but essentially you're kind of putting in the work so that you are creating momentum. And once you start creating momentum, things will automatically shift in terms of energy, and you'll kind of get to the right place, even though maybe she's working with strategy 1, strategy 2, and none of those strategies work, but essentially 3 may come into play, and she may meet someone through strategy 3, which was not in the plan. But had she not worked on 1 and 2, then probably nothing would have happened. So here she's just strategizing. So this is just strategy. Now again, here during this time period as well, I tell her that, okay, you're getting close, but it's not there yet. So during this time as well, what she will do is she's going to prepare herself. She's still going to work on the strategy. Maybe she works on her mindset. Maybe she's working on expanding or extending her visibility. So now, instead of just being visible, let's say over this region, she's kind of extending it to this and this and this. However, maybe if she's doing online dating, then she's extending her visibility to different sites, because that way she thinks that she can meet more people or different people. So that's the second week. Now, during the third week, I tell her that, okay, this is the week when things are really, really favorable, when the stars are aligned in your favor. So this is the week you need to have your full attention on how things are happening. Because if you don't, then essentially you're going to miss out. And that's really where your intuition comes into play, because if you don't catch that moment, it's kind of gone, especially if the power of the opportunity is weak. If the opportunity is strong enough, that it's going to slap you in the face and you'll know. But if it's not strong enough, then you are going to have to use your intuition and kind of leverage it or take advantage of it. So during this period, then she does whatever she is doing, and then she actually comes across the person. So this is when the first contact is made, and once the first contact is made, she can kind of take it from there. Now, is this going to be the person who's going to kind of turn out her life partner? In her case, that's not what happened. This person was just like one other person who came along the way for her to learn a lesson, and then she had to kind of move along during this period to kind of test and see if things were going to go and flow in the direction she wanted. And here she realized, she was told that things are not going to flow and it's going to fall apart. So during this period, it falls apart. So sometimes before you meet the right person, there are certain lessons you need to learn. And unless you learn those lessons, that particular person is not going to come in your life. So this person who came here was her lesson. And whatever lesson she learned, she kind of takes out of it. And then now she has this, let's say, extra power or extra information, where whatever mistake she made with this person, maybe it was a mistake or maybe it was a lesson, she's not going to repeat it. So even though this cycle did not bring her her life partner, it did move her closer in terms of meeting the right person. So for instance, like let's say that this is, she's here, and let's say this is the point where she's meeting the right person. So think of it as a journey. So she didn't get from here to here, but maybe she got from here to here. And she learned one lesson. The next person she meets or next set of circumstances, it would be like a second lesson. And then maybe after that, it would be a third lesson. So your goal is to kind of try and minimize this and not keep making mistake over mistake, because otherwise there's just going to be too many of these, too many people that you're going to meet. And if you start meeting a lot of people and nothing happens, and you just meet and break kind of a thing, it's going to create frustration for you, and that's not what you want. All right, so I talked about divine timing, which is this particular space, or this particular region of time during which you can take advantage of the opportunity. Essentially, that's when opportunity comes knocking on your door. So how exactly do you determine divine timing? I have another video which I'm going to link over here, and that video talks about just divine timing, how it influences your love life, and how divine timing can make a difference. So I'll go and see you in the next video, and don't forget to take the quiz and fill out the Google form if you'd like to take advantage of how the stars are going to influence your love life. They're going to show the circumstances as well as the timing in terms of you meeting a particular person. So I'll see you in the next video.